a game that we played a couple times on this channel now. It's called Is This AI? We are once again in the lovely subreddit r/is this AI. So we have this very first post and they write, is that AI? It looks like it is, but it would be crazy if it were. Even her channel is very consistent with content like this. I feel like I've actually seen videos like this on my page, like specifically her video with this with the flowers.
We're making some croissants.
Recently when I was out, I received a scary text. A two-factor authentication notification for my Twitch account. Except I never requested it. And a week later, I got two-factor authentication texts for my bank account. Somebody tried hacking into my accounts, and this is just a warning that it could happen to anyone. For most of you, your data online is not safe. And many people don't realize exactly how much sensitive information you're sending and receiving through email, which you don't want in the hands of third-party companies that might sell your data or do who knows what with it. That's why as many are switching to Proton, including Proton Mail and Proton Drive. It's part of Proton's ecosystem of encrypted and secure products trusted by over 100 million users worldwide, which their tagline is Proton. Privacy by default. Because did you know privacy is not the default setting for most companies? But not with Proton. With Proton Drive and Mail, you can stay extra protected through a number of amazing features. Keep your emails protected with FishGuard, which blocks attempts and will flag suspicious emails. You can also hide your email address through creating email aliases, further preventing phishing attacks. And with Proton Drive, your files and photos remain securely stored with end-to-end encryption. And this also includes secure file sending. Safely send files and links where you can set an expiration date or password protect your files. Automatic backup ensures your photos and files will never be lost, and files can be worked on collaboratively through Proton Docs or Proton Sheets. And the best part, Proton Drive will make sure your data, files, and photos will never be sold to third parties for advertising, or worse, to have AI models trained on it. In fact, Proton Drive themselves cannot see or read your files. Click the link down below to protect your data and privacy, where you can get Proton Drive and Mail with one subscription. It's completely free to sign up, and doing so helps support this channel so I can continue making videos like this for you guys. And now that we've learned how to keep our data safe, let's get back into the video. Whoa. It's just the purposely spilling the milk is kind of wild.
And the croissants are sourdough, so gotta help me. It's baked up perfect.
Okay, let me try to scrub through this a little slowly. I don't see any of the glitching against the background here.
Croissants.
Yeah, the background stays very consistent. It's like the camera frame changes, but it's not like the sunflower suddenly having different amounts of petals. This frame here, the outlet looks correct. Okay, looking at the sunflowers again. Oh, wait. Maybe it took a while, so the flowers are kind of moving, right? Because this whole set, the flowers are in the same spot. Now they kind of moved a little bit. Or maybe she has a cat that walked on the counter and then brushed the flowers. I know my cat be doing that all the time. Let me look at the oven. Are these correct looking oven knobs? They look circular. It's a bit blurry. I can't really make out the outlet there, but it doesn't seem to be glitching in any way. The holes in the table look very consistent. That's not changing frame by frame, right? We still have the 4 holes here. This milk clip just bothered me. Why are you pouring the milk outside? Yeah, she's stirring it. Yeah, the ceiling also has all of these fire detectors up on the ceiling. Why are there so many? But that doesn't change frame by frame. I say this is not AI. The bite looks correct. So somebody says, nah, I bet €1 it's real. This girl takes her sourdough, so it's gut healthy baking game very seriously. And somebody comments about the mess and somebody says, yeah, that's a thing food influencers do. You must maintain eye contact with the camera while you throw an egregious amount of unmeasured ingredients into a bowl. And somebody says, I'm not saying it's AI, but how does she bake without the flowers wilting or decoloring significantly? I'm wondering about that too. I don't bake anything fancy. All I bake are cookies, but thin things turn brown in the oven. Those flowers are gonna crisp up. And somebody says she could have glued fresh ones on after baking. It does appear they're lightly applied to the surface rather than rolled into the dough. And somebody says very fair. So she baked a batch that didn't have flowers and glued fresh ones on. I didn't think about that. Thank you. So a bunch of people were just kind of talking about the flowers and stuff that they thought it was a bit odd. But again, it seems like the general conclusion is that she's just gluing them on after. Next up, this person says, Art 101 submission. It looks too perfect to me. Incredibly clean work for Indian ink in a beginner class. And they said, this was submitted by a student in my Art 101 class, and we're supposed to provide feedback on another work. I'm not sure what to say about this piece because it looks like AI. And the full assignment was to morph an organic shape of a natural object into a linear shape of man-made origin. The image just looks too clean to have been done in Indian ink, especially of all the fine white lines in the leaves for beginner class. But maybe this person's just really good. Okay, let's take a look here. So I can't say anything because I have never used Indian ink as a medium. Couple of things that I just find odd. What happened to the graph lines? This is just really odd to me because if you were drawing lines, I would assume you would draw the graph lines in even close even grids, you know? They're not always going to be perfect squares if you're like doing it traditionally. But this line breaking is odd. The rings are also odd because there's all these full rings and at the very end it's a half ring, which no notebook looks like this. I also don't know why there's a distorted arrow here. I assume if you're able to draw this well, you could also draw even arrows. To me, suspicious. I think this is AI. So a comment says, to me, the red flag is how the arrows morph. There's no visual rationale behind why they change shape the way they do across the image, and the rest of the image is too precise for that to be a mistake. Also, how the pages at the bottom of the notebook aren't flush on the furthest right image. That would only happen naturally if the cover of the notebook was in the middle of the pages, but the cover is visible separate from the rest of the pages. I think they talked about this cover that's sitting back here, and how it's like all flush and there's like a bunch on the bottom. Like these pages are just a little bit shorter than the rest. And people are pointing out the grid. And they say, no human in history has ever forgotten how a grid works halfway through drawing a line. This is 100% AI, and I feel bad for how much somebody is paying a teacher to give feedback on somebody else's AI model. Somebody replies, that's what got me. If that pattern were in at least 1 or 2 spots, I'd think it was a deliberate effort of the artist to show a morphing grid from one type pattern to a looser paper pattern. But with it just happening in one weird spot, I would really question the artist's motive for it. Another person says, not halfway through a line. But I have to say, if I misjudge my lines, I would personally definitely merge it with the line below and hope nobody noticed. So people are definitely saying AI. And I do agree too. Like, what's the point of paying art school tuition if you're gonna cheat? Just don't go. So we have this video. Is this frog eating a beetle video AI? And if not, then what the hell happened? I don't think a beetle would just combust like that. What the hell? Okay, let's rewatch this. All right, so I think the first oddity here is the fact there's a beetle leg on the ground and the beetle is also walking. Also, the beetle doesn't have the correct number of legs. Beetles have 6 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 visible legs just on this side. We're not even talking about the legs on the other side that would be obscured. Okay, so maybe this is the other leg. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Beetles have 6 legs. But watch how the beetle glitches into the frog's leg here. Like, do you see that glitching for like a split second? It's a bit hard to see, but it kind of distorts around the beetle. And what is this? Like the tongue maybe, but this muddied frame here, that's looking very AI. Like this, that's not just like a frame lag, a frame glitch. And then a frog suddenly developed an extra finger after eating the beetle. A big one that you can tell for videos is like you just pause it on the still frame and just look at like how the still frame looks. The jaw's massive here, the lower jaw relative to the upper jaw. AI. And the top comment says, this video was posted to an AI Facebook page that exclusively pumps out AI videos of animals. And that page is apparently called NR Life 2. And somebody says, it's awful that something like this exists. And somebody replies, at least they state it openly instead of pretending their videos are real. And this is so funny. Somebody says, mod of r/frogs here, 100% AI. And another person says, beetles like this exist, but this is fake. The frog would simply spit it out and dip, maybe gag a few times. Bro, I seen a frog eat a burning joint roach and just gut it and never spat it out. Another person says AI was obsessed with bombardier beetles for a while. Another person says there's a species of beetles that does in fact shoot hot acid as a defense. Frogs don't care and always get it. And another person says the floor makes me feel weird. And now I'm invested. So somebody comments a link to a video of a real frog eating that type of beetle. Okay, so look, well, bro was not even bothered. Never mind. He's like, not for me. And the beetle's like crawling away. Oh, the poor beetle. Whoa. That is actually really cool. I feel bad for the beetle though. The frog's probably like, why am I meal fighting back? What is happening to me? So yes, this was solved. It is AI. Next up, we have this art piece. Need help figuring out if this Fiverr order is AI. Seller says 100% made by hand. And they add context. They paid $60 for this, and they put it in multiple AI detector websites, and they all flagged it as AI. The seller said it was 100% made by hand, and it took a bit more than 24 hours to complete. So again, one thing definitely to note is that, again, AI steals from real artists, so there are real artists with a cell shading style like this. Just taking a peep at this, a little bit interesting. It does have an art style that is reminiscent of AI. Unfortunately, because it just sucks how AI has kind of co-opted some art styles and it's now just like, oh, if you have this style, it looks like AI. There's just like some oddities to me in this piece specifically. What is this? Exactly. Maybe it was an accidental brush stroke left in on the piece. I just find that a bit odd. Another oddity is the zipper attachment not actually attached to the zipper. It's like hanging off of the zipper as if it was broken. There's an accidental brush stroke on her thigh, but that could just be human error. You know, you accidentally left a stroke there. The eye rendering and stuff like that is consistent, so we do have that going for us. There are aspects of it that look hand painted that look like, you know, maybe there's just like a gap between the line art and the coloring as if it was like a human that kind of forgot to fill it in all the way. Like we see that here with the glove. Where's the dad's thumb? But maybe it's hidden in this pose. I don't know. From one image, it's like hard to fully tell, right? So somebody says, art style feels like a dead giveaway. Somebody mentioned a time lapse, which probably is a smart ask. Somebody says, in my own opinion, it looks AI, especially the weird sweater belt attachment with Pokeballs. It looks dumb and it doesn't make sense. And I saw the girl has a singular eyelash on the lower eyelid on one of the eyes. Ooh, wait, did I miss that? Oh, wait, yeah, that's right. There is one here and there's two here. That's not looking great. But if we're giving benefit of doubt, maybe it's human error. Okay, this is also so minor, but there's a color change here in the actual cap itself, which is a bit odd because it's like a saturated red, and then it goes to like a much more brick red right here. Maybe it's overflow, like over painted from the little nub on the top of the hat. They like had everything in the same layer, accidentally brushed it onto this layer. AI does have a tendency to use too many colors for no reason. That could be an accident. Again, one thing that's always difficult is like with only one piece, unless it's like egregiously obvious, it's sometimes hard to tell off of just one piece, right? So people were talking about the sweater belt again, and they were saying it's not necessarily impossible because there have been cases of that in Pokemon characters having Pokeballs attached to their clothing. And somebody adds, it's traced over AI. He generated the characters and made his own outline and fixed inconsistencies. The previous company I worked for used to do that. And the background was also generated separately, but not fixed over. That's why the tree has a weird branch going in a spiral and why the lighting doesn't match in the background. And yeah, we do have this like weird circular thing happening over here. For me, the big one is the line on the kid's head. Like that could be human error, but how is that not caught? And somebody says, I think it's AI. However, the person does a decent amount of editing to make it not raise immediate red flags. And they kind of zoom into the Pokeball where there's a bit of warping happening here. And somebody says, I think imperfect circles are fine. I personally would trace a perfect circle rather than plop on a shape, but you know, like the shape tool. But the way the strokes warp is not the way a digital brush would normally be set up. So it looks like the comment verdict is AI. This one is a bit backwards because this one we actually know it's AI, but the OP says, I was told this was made by AI and I didn't believe it. Could it really have been AI generated? Because this is the piece in question and it's so stylized that on first glance, you would probably be like, oh, it's definitely not AI because like it's stylized, right? So heavily. But wow, it's truly something where it's like, you can't trust anything nowadays, which sucks. I think a couple of things that are a bit odd, and again, this is heavily stylized, right, in terms of the way it's drawn, is like when there's warping that doesn't match the brush that was used to make the piece. One of those like ballpoint pen type brushes where there's like heavy weight in like when you put it down and then it kind of like thins out. Right? You can kind of see there's like a thick weight here and then it thins out. So it's like very pressure based. It looks like this is one of those pens where every time you put it down, it makes like a drop, right? And then it thins out. Like here, you can see for the start and the end of this line, if this is the pen that's used, right? There's like extra weight here and extra weight here and it thins out in the middle. And of course, artists can change brushes, but you would kind of expect to see that because it looks like this whole piece was made with a brush like that for the line work, right? But then we have this bit of like injection into the eye that first off doesn't match this eye, but two, it also doesn't match the behavior of the brush that was supposedly used. And then again, if you look closely, we do have more oddities that is consistent with like the AI oddities. We have hair, right? Coming all the way down, coming right back up into the neckline, which is odd behavior for hair. There's also clothing aspects that doesn't match. This overall has a double buckle, but this one is a single buckle, right? And this one looks like there's another buckle behind it and it's missing here. There's also a cut into the buckle here. And then the big one is also like intentionality with brush strokes. A human artist would always like have a rhyme or reason why they did something. Like here, the zipper part of the jean, having like a squiggly line kind of cutting across this way is just a choice. Maybe it was intentional, but it just kind of looks like an oversight. Not like an artistic one, but they literally just accidentally drew it over because it was AI generated. There's also a bit of artifacting happening here. We have a bunch of random dots. Another one in the hair here. This one is, I guess, on the wood, maybe? Like, you could maybe argue it's intentional, but it wouldn't quite make sense for the artist to do that. And again, we have more like oddities in the hair itself, right? She's very straight hair. Then we have this type of curvature here. And like strands coming out of her head. Like, it's coming up here. So very interesting. Somebody zoomed into like this pile here, and somebody says, this definitely would have fooled me, but this section bears the marks of AI generation. The weird artifacts give it away. And somebody said, yeah, the vertical marks on the books where it should be horizontal don't strike me as an artistic choice. Which, to me, I thought they were planks, which is exactly what this commenter said. And somebody said, I generally thought it was a bench until you said books. For me, the sign was what was happening with the hair on the right shoulder. I don't know what's happening over here, man. And somebody said, I agree. The hair strand coming out of nowhere and the odd highlight on the shirt going to the jumper is nonsensical. No artist would do that. And another person says, left eye screams AI to me. It's got a weird blur that doesn't make sense as a stylistic choice. Somebody says, looks cool regardless and got 2 downvotes. Next up, we have this. Is this restaurant snack tray AI? It feels AI, but nothing seems off. Dutch snack board. Maybe it's a photo that is really edited to look AI. Or maybe it is AI. Well, let's take a look. What has me a bit confused, and I'm looking at like the background environment here. What is this on? Is it on like an ottoman? Because the whole tray looks like it's on the full ottoman, except it looks like the ottoman ends here. But it also looks like it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? The end of the ottoman, so it lays flat. And it also looks like it's supposed to continue onwards. Looking correct. So without really context, because Dutch snack board is really vague, I would need some more context into like what is actually the food here. There's some things that look odd and some parts that look kind of interesting. Like, let's play a game of can we identify what is on this board? Now, I'm not Dutch, nor have I had a Dutch snack board. This is interesting. It looks like a falafel, a mozzarella stick. I don't know what that is. This looks like bread of some sort. What I'm really curious about is this. What is that? Is that meat? It looks like it's like some charcoal grilled meat of some sort, but I can't identify what meat that would be. So that leads me to think maybe it's like bark. You know what I mean? Like the dessert bark where it's like chocolate and like nuts in there and stuff like that. But it also doesn't look correct because bark doesn't look like there's a bite taken out of it. But also these two pieces look like they're somehow connected into one large bent item. So now it looks like we have barbecue sauce and then we have something else here. This to me is just quite odd. We also have a toothpick stuck in it or in the item behind it. If the toothpick were stuck in this, that would be quite odd. What is this? Are these like nacho chips? Why does it look like that? So then we have some pastrami here. That looks good. Yum, yum. But then there's like a little strap over here. I don't know what that's supposed to be either. Like this could most definitely be like Dutch foods that I'm not familiar with, but we have, I don't know what this is either. It's like a slice of bread with like tuna on it with also purple shredded onions on that with one diced tomato with a pick through it. This is just odd. I've never had a Dutch snack board, but I've had charcuterie boards and one tomato speared through a roll of bread with that looks like it's supposed to be its own sandwich. Like this is like a sandwich with tomatoes on it. That doesn't make sense. So there's like a pineapple on it for some reason. Over here we have like a little bowl of fruit maybe. And then we have a loaf of bread that is quartered, that is like cut in triangles, except they didn't cut it fully. Like there's a cut that should be here too, right? If you cut it into wedges. That's not cut. There's another bowl of something. Ground meat maybe. And we have a pile of bell peppers. One pink ribbon. And it looks like this dish is also back here. There's like another one. For me, what's just odd is I can't really identify what's on here. And let me look up Dutch snack boards. Because like maybe there's just Dutch items that I don't know, which like is definitely a possibility. But here we have an example of like a homemade Dutch style charcuterie board. Where like if you look at it, there's some items where I'm not quite sure what it is. Like I don't know what this is. But like you could tell what is what. You know, there's bread, there's meat. This is possibly meat. Deviled eggs. Right? And like spread of some sort. But like even if you don't know what the dish is, you still know what it's supposed to be. Like this is supposed to be spread. Another one. All right, we have pomegranates, cheese, fruit, right? Again, I don't know what this is, but it looks like another sort of bread or something, you know? Like you could still tell kind of what it's supposed to be. Like here, I really can't identify what some of the stuff is. And I just think, just objectively speaking, of a charcuterie board, the choice to put 2 leaves of lettuce, just 2, is a choice. So a comment says, the textures give it away. Part of the image looks like a photo, the other part looks like a painting. On top of that, there's a suspicious random composition. And somebody says, the snack tray as a whole doesn't even make sense. What even are some of these things? It looks like literal slop. And somebody says, the background in AI images is often out of focus, so the algorithm doesn't need to define the details. But in reality, photographs are going to capture some sort of definition. And somebody says, what are those husks of food in front of the tray? Why does the sandwich appear to be partially eaten? The color of the light is too red and orange. And somebody says, why 4 different types of cocktail sticks and slices of tomatoes? Somebody says, oh, it's like typical Dutch food. The 2 brown things up front I thought was maybe like a chicken wing or a spare rib, but it's not really clear. Okay, this most definitely is not chicken. Like I thought maybe it was a spare rib, but you know, ribs aren't L-shaped. But like, see, I would have thought it was meat if it didn't have like these orange chunks in it. Then that makes me think like it's some sort of compound bread or something crunchy. I say this is AI, and for the reason of you really can't identify what the hell anything is. I'm curious about your thoughts. So I think we could wrap up the is this AI guessing game here. Let me know what your score was. Did you guys do well? Not well? It sucks that AI is being used everywhere. It feels like I can't trust anything nowadays. Like what? I'm gonna look at a restaurant's review photos and I'm gonna see this and I'm be like, wow, I'm gonna get a charcuterie board, and then you end up with nothing like that. Slash, to be honest, I don't even want to eat that because I don't know what half the stuff is. And please don't misconstrue my words. Not saying it in like a, I think Dutch food is bad. It's like a, what the hell is this thing? What is this? So if you guys like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out at Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide, and I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST and Thursdays at 7:30. Hope to catch y'all there or in another video. Peace.